Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga-Texas construction update video.
Another day here at Giga-Texas, and it's a Wednesday. It looks like it's a beautiful day right now. Earlier we had a lot of clouds, but it helped with the lighting, so all things considered, not too bad. The wind started picking up a little later during the flight, but I was able to get a full flight in today. Now, a couple of things that I want to talk about briefly is over on that far southwest side, that test track is really starting to shape up very quickly. There's that large kind of oval perimeter road that is taking shape pretty significantly now, and then the inside of that kind of infield, there's a smaller oval that is taking shape. Plus, there may be some other road courses that are being added into that area. So, you know, the pace that they're going right now with constructing that test track means that they might be done by the end of April. And if that's the case, who knows? Maybe this will be a great demonstration track for the new Roadster, which we are expecting to hear about sometime toward the end of April or maybe into May. So, I don't know, something to watch. I also travel very far to the north to take a look at the construction that's going up for the new Optimus factory, and more of that grade work is underway. We also visit where the advanced technology lab, or the fab for chips, is being prepared for construction. There is some movement of materials in that location. Also preparations to move away some of those workshops, trailers, and other equipment to begin that construction. Now, another thing I want to talk about that has to do possibly with Giga-Texas. Earlier today, Elon posted this on X, and it said in the message that something more exciting than a minivan is coming. So I don't know what that means, and I'm kind of curious what you think. Now, my last video, we saw this, which may be a different variant of a Model Y. Maybe that's what he has in mind. Of course, perhaps he's thinking about the Cyber SUV. We've seen a little bit of that in the news over the last several months. Who knows? Maybe it's the Robovan or Robovan, depending on how you want to pronounce that. We've seen that at We Robot, and maybe there's a development of that coming, or maybe it's something brand new. So kind of curious, what do you think he means by something more exciting than a minivan? Of course, with Cybercabs, that is something that we are watching as we're getting very close to April. And I did see several over at the crash testing facility getting ready for more crash testing, and that has been going on for a while. We see many of the Cybercabs lined up outside of the exit point of the factory today, and that's really great to see. And over at the Outbound lot, we see many more lined up as if they're getting ready to be shipped off site. So Cybercab production is still ramping up, preparing for April, when we should start seeing a lot more of them exiting the factory. Now, one last thing I do want to mention in the intro before we get into this kind of longer video today is that next week, starting on 30th of March through the entire week, and then most of the following week, Giga-Texas General Assembly lines are going to be down for upgrades and maintenance. So we won't be seeing a lot of Model Ys and probably Cybertrucks. Not sure how that's going to affect the Cybercabs since we'll be heading into April, but it'll be something to watch for, and I thought I would pass that along to you. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get the drone into the skies, fly around, and see what all of the construction and progress is being made here at Giga-Texas. As always, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. Have a great week.
If you would like to support my efforts, please consider using these links, which will be in the video description. If you are interested in Tesla products, you can help yourself and support me by using my referral code. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons on my YouTube video, as this helps as well. Thank you. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga-Texas. Well, good morning from the north side of Giga-Texas. A little bit of low clouds, but otherwise a nice day to fly. Thought I would start on the north end and take a look at what is going on here just to the north of the Switchyard. We see the concrete batch plant in operation. A lot of the materials in those bins, and also the pond just to the north of the main operations. And then here is where we see some of the landscaping materials, and also the rental equipment lot facilities that have been relocated here from that lone tree field you see at the very top of the screen. We also see some more materials in this kind of a gravel lined section at the bottom of the screen, and no real changes over the last several weeks. Now, as we fly over this tree belt location, we can see the construction underway, but first I want to point back to the south, just give you a little bit of context of where we are in relation to Cortex 2 and the battery cathode plant. Also, some of the dirt roadways along through this kind of section dividing the construction site here on the left and those facilities just to the south. This is a good overall view of this large rectangular field. Sees the silt fences on the south side and along either sides of the kind of roadways that are on developing. We can also see some of the people working and doing some surveying, and some more gravel and preparation of grade throughout this entire section. A lot of earthworking equipment in function today, and extends almost all the way through the entire length of this large rectangular field. This is a nice look at a lower altitude of how this work is progressing on the north end. Of course, the silt fence, which as I've speculated on the previous video, the reason why it's shaped as it is we may see the new Harold Green Road coming through this north part. But a good kind of angled view back to the south along all of the work, plus the activity level is significantly increasing since the last video. On this north end, we also see a little bit of a dirt mound being prepared, and there's also some gravel that had been brought in. I'm going to fly slightly further to the east, just show you this tree belt area. This is where linear hills and ponds are from the old sand and gravel mine. You can tell that there is some earthwork throughout this location, so keep monitoring to see if they start to fill in this location. The first step would be to remove all of the trees. This is also a lower altitude view looking back to the southwest across this site, and continue to bring the drone down lower just so that get a better view of the earthwork equipment that is underway. Now, the nice thing about this very large field is it was already flat to begin with, so there's not a lot of fill that had to be done. The biggest work was on that south end, sort of the top of the screen, where they had to do the silting or the sifting of the dirt to get rid of all of the debris that was in this location, and all that now has been completed. As I maneuver around here, we can see the large mound of the broken up concrete in the top of the screen, some more earthworking equipment, and I thought I would take this opportunity to look back over to Lone Tree Field and across these kind of tree-lined hills and ponds once again. You can see some of that earthwork that has been done in some parts of this location. On the north side of the Lone Tree Field, much of this debris from trees and other vegetation is being cleaned up. As you can tell, this was relocated up here from several other parts of the site a few weeks ago, and now that is also being removed. We can also get a good view as I get up higher of how this entire site looks today. And where Lone Tree Field is on the left hand of the screen, the big slab and foundation work on the center right of the screen, downtown Austin at the top of the screen, and Giga-Texas off to the left. Bring the drone back down a little lower. We'll fly over the lone tree of the Lone Tree Field, and you can see where we are in relation to the main factory, the cathode plant, Cortex 2, and that multi-level parking garage. As we continue to fly over the tree belt, I wanted to just show you where River Road's extension will eventually come through the trees. You can tell that with all of the tree removal at the bottom and center of the screen, and it will work its way through the trees as more are removed into this large section. And Later on this year, we'll see a road surface coming through this part. And this connects all the way over to the south end of the factory, which we will see a little more detail later in the video. Kind of maneuver the drone back to look to the northwest across this area where we've seen a lot of work with dirt, also concrete crushing operations, a small and temporary recycling yard at the bottom of the screen, and some more equipment being stored here on the bottom right of the screen. As I maneuver back to proceed towards the Lippmann concrete crushing operation, this gives you kind of a sense of the amount of materials, the different kinds of materials that are being stored around this location. And some of this may be new fill coming in, and others may be part of the recycling effort to clear up this entire large section that we see coming into view. While I was here, I thought I would give a better and lower altitude view of the work here. You can see that large mound of rebar that has been collected, in addition to all the crushed up concrete and more material and debris being put into these hoppers and the conveyor systems as the work continues. This is a lower altitude view of all of this location where all the concrete was. Still a lot more work to be done. We are seeing infill dirt coming into this center part of the screen where they're continuing to raise up the grade. The pond on the left and the roadway is where River Road will go through on the left-hand side of the screen. We do see some earthwork nearby these outlet channels. Also, dirt is being put on top of those 4 steel corrugated pipes that we saw on my previous video. Again, this is preparing where River Road will come through. At the top of the screen, we saw a crane next to the battery cathode plant, and we get a better view here looking to the north where the transformers are stored next to the cell test lab, and much of the earthwork proceeding up to that large clearing at the top of the screen. And I'll continue to maneuver around, and we're going to take a look at some Cybercabs at the crash testing facility. Good zoom in here shows you that we've got about 10, maybe 12 Cybercabs along the fence on the right. And more are inside the crash test facility. It's hard to see from this particular angle and lighting. But I'll maneuver around here just to show you what these Cybercabs look like. These are being crash tested for that certification and being able to use onto the streets. And because of that, all of these do not have steering wheels, because that is the final version that Tesla will be using. As we've mentioned on several occasions, the ones that have steering wheels are testing versions. They are used around the country to test out and prepare for putting in the Cybercabs into the robotaxi fleet. So here, I thought I would bring up the drone to a much higher altitude, look back to the north, show you that construction site, Lone Tree Field on the right, the recycling operations, and where this is related to the Cortex 2 on the left, die shop, and battery cathode plant on the right. I'll bring the drone back down. We'll look at what is going on here on the south end. Still looks like a pond in this section. Don't see the tanks that we originally saw on the site plan documents last January, before everything here was changed. So still not sure exactly what they're doing for the water tanks. They maybe have assembled them on the inside of the building, but it's hard to tell for sure. The temporary coolers look like they are getting close to being operational. A lot of the pipes and electrical connections are made. We see part 1 of the cooling system with the fans, and that is getting ready to be operational. As we pass over the megapacks on the left, we can see that the fiber reinforced polymer beams are being assembled now on part 2 of the chiller plant, and this is forming that superstructure, which will have the fans on the very top, and the ventilation ducts around the sides and the rest of the decking. As I maneuver around, this is a pretty good look at how this slab is coming together, the 6 segments that will have the 6 fans. And this time it looks like they don't have much of the pipes or manifolds connected yet. So again, it's a little bit different than how they did part one. You do see some of the pipes on the ground. As we pass over this maintenance, temporary maintenance facility, I'll show you what's going on at the cooler plant or chiller plant. The plastic is still there. That'll be taken down now that the temperatures are coming up. But this is what the crane is doing. It's lifting up some items and materials to where we see this scaffolding and plastic around for roof access. I've had a lot of people ask, why don't they put more solar panels on the roofs? This is one of the reasons why, is that they are constantly doing more additions to the roof, and it wouldn't make sense to put the solar panels on just to remove them. We do see activity here loading up equipment onto this temporary platform and through that new access point. Earlier I saw a large spool of cabling being brought through, so that maybe give us some idea of what they are working on the inside of the battery cathode plant. Nice overview of the area between the cathode plant and the Cortex 2, and of course what the activity looks like on the north end. We can see the geotextile membranes being set out here for what is most likely going to be a paved road. Some gravel being put on top to prevent it from blowing away. And you can see how it will connect into that roadway at the top right of the screen. Bringing the drone down lower, just showing you where the screw type piers continue to be installed along this side of the site. Also some deliveries of some equipment is underway this morning. As we get in closer, we see a screw type pier being installed right now. This machine kind of basically screws it down into the ground like a large drill. And we can see the tops of many more along this entire asphalt section. Once all the platforms are there, then they will probably bring the large crane back so that we can see the second part of the mega packs, very similar to what we see here in the video on that new section along this entire west side of the building. So I'm going to briefly come over to the electrical switchyard and we'll see what the activity level looks like. On the north end, crews are preparing to install more of the steel items onto the footings. In fact, we see some of that going on right now. We also just flew over a forklift bringing some of the equipment that will be headed to this location for those workers to install. As I pass around the blue and white crane, I'll show you what the transformer work is looking like today. They're putting some conduits in over that catch basin and the slab, and some additional steel items on the south next to the trailers and that underground vault. As we get over towards this section where some of the materials are being stored, these white wrapped boxes, and also some of the flooring for Cortex 2, it still hasn't really changed much, so I'll continue to watch that so we can see when it's being installed. So I'm going to bring the drone up to a higher altitude. We'll fly around this east side, the temporary parking for contractors, the east warehouse on wheels, which will eventually have to be moved, and all of this section here is going to be part of that advanced technology fabrication structure that's related to the Terrafab. And all of what we see here in the screen will eventually have to be moved out of the way. Speaking of moving items out of the way, we can see that underway here with yard trucks picking up some of these steel items next to this large hill. Those will be relocated around the site to prepare for the construction. This hill has to be removed because of that construction as well. Some of the concrete will be crushed up on that operation to the farther to the north. The rest of the dirt could be sifted and then maybe used for construction. The old maintenance facility for the concrete trucks has been removed. Some of the bins have the materials, and it could be because there was some contamination of that facility over the last several decades that it operated. So that may be why they're taking those precautions. All of this workshops materials, the warehouse on wheels, and even the trailers here with some of the scraps from the stamping machine section of the factory will have to be moved out of the way, as will this facility, which is for recycling. And right now it does not look like it's being prepared for moving yet, but many of the rest of these workshops and fabrication sections also are going to have to be moved. So I'll be watching all of this to kind of get an idea of when we will see that happening, and that will give us an idea when construction can begin. So I'm going to bring the drone up to a higher altitude. We're looking at where that advanced technology fabrication structure will be built. And as I pirouette back towards the main factory, you can see Austin in the top of the screen, that multi-level parking garage, and the earthwork around where River Road is being extended. Now, I've had some people ask, well, what happened to the ecological paradise? Well, all of this green belt that you can see next to the Colorado River is where that's going to be. There's a new permit that was just filed, and it's for 28 acres of riverfront land for that reclamation work, and that's going to continue all the way through around the Colorado River here. When it is done, I'll put a picture up here of what that will kind of look like. This is part of the planning documents for that River Park Ecological Paradise, and all of the green belt that you see on the right, including that pond, will be part of that. Coming back down, we can see how the River Road extension kind of separates the factory and the rest of the site from that river park, and the River Road extension through the intersection with Robotic Avenue continues all the way around this part of the site. And of course, that River Park continues on the left-hand side of the screen and under the bridge. We do see some more work here next to this intersection, and also excavation work on the concrete next to the chiller plant. And that is working, that work is continuing with more of the trench boxes. I'll keep the zoom in and show you what's going on here. There is a item getting ready to be lifted off of this trailer by that gantry crane. I was fortunate enough to be here right at the right time where they pull the tarp off. We can get a good idea of what this equipment looks like. It must be fairly substantially heavy to be able to be needed, that gantry crane. And we also see some additional materials ready for movement inside. At the exit point for the Cybercabs, we do see about a dozen here, and that large black door with the traffic lights is where they enter and exit from the factory, predominantly exiting as this is the end of the production line. So the fact that we see more of these here is a great sign, considering that we have about a week left until we get into April, and April is still the target for officially beginning construction of the production of the Cybercabs. An important part is of that production process is these temporary chillers in the manifolds and pipes. This is a part of the cooling system for the thermoplastic injection molding machines that are just inside the factory at this point. A good view of all of the vehicles parked at the testing and calibration lot, plus all the materials that are being stored here at this material staging yard. I'm going to zoom out and reposition to the east side of the parking garage so I can show you the work with the new intersection of Robotic Avenue and River Road at the bottom right, plus the excavation work that is going on here just to the east of the parking garage, and with some more trench boxes as they add in what looks to be steel corrugated pipe for drainage. I'm going to continue to fly along this part of the site over the material staging yard and zoom in on the wind tunnel. We can see that green transformer recently installed. That Sunbelt generator, I think, is going to be removed here pretty soon. And the fact that there's new electrical systems here means that that wind tunnel is probably here for a long time in the future. Coming back over to the east side of the factory, I'll zoom back in to show you these wooden crates and deliveries that have been made, stockpiled outside of the factory. They might be related to a Cybercab. It's hard to tell for sure, but this is a material similar to what we've seen in the past. A lot of castings in these racking systems today on the east side of casting and the melt center. Also, later on, I saw some more of the aluminum wheels being brought in for recycling. I'm going to zoom in here and just show you that there is some work on the ground with some of these manhole covers and access points to some of the conduit. I'll fly up over the power lines and we'll come back down for a closer look. This work has been underway for a few weeks, and this is the current situation right now. Some of the concrete has been cut out around the manhole access points, And I'm not sure exactly why that is the case, but we'll continue to monitor and see what they do. On the north lot, I promised on my last video I'd give you a better look at some of the equipment, some of the kind of racking systems and other items that are necessary for production, and of course all the racks that are used for the Cybertruck castings. On the north side of paint, in addition to all the paint stands, we can see some of those Cybercab forms on the upper left, and the boxes show that that body that we saw on my previous video has been unpacked and moved in, so that answers whether or not it was being shipped out or not. The other body that we saw next to the platform has been there for several weeks. So still a little bit of a mystery of what that body was and why it was being shipped in here to the north part of Giga-Texas. So I'm going to reposition the drone over the top of the roof over to the battery recycling section. Take a look at that briefly, and then we'll look at some new berm work that is underway on this west side. When I arrived today, I noticed that there was a lot of work here on this berm. Not sure exactly what they're doing. It may be part for landscaping or preparing this for maybe for an access road. It's really hard to tell for sure. Perhaps it'll be for a fence line, even though the perimeter fence is at the bottom of the screen. So I'll continue to watch that and we'll see what's going on. Vehicles exiting the factory today. We saw 2 Model Ys just heading off to the road, driving autonomously down towards the South Bridge and over to the end of line. And we'll fly along this west side, following along those vehicles that we see in the top driving away from us on the road, and they will eventually get over to that end of line facility. Did notice a lot of activity here next to the receiving doors and this entry location at the south part of the factory today. And I also thought I would take the opportunity of being lower in to show you what the work here on this part of the site appears like. Of course, this is where we had the large excavation, a very large concrete vault that is coming into view right at the center of the screen, and a caisson, which is now completely under the ground. And all of this is part of water management and water pipe system that has been added in all throughout the west side of the berm and the south side of the factory. Bring the drone up to a higher altitude to give you a look across the factory and up to the north where we started the flight today. And of course, on the east side and all of this green belt, that is going to be the River Park Ecological Paradise. And it will continue under the bridge that we see here and continuing to follow the Colorado River all the way over to where the test track is. I also am going to kind of point the drone to the south over the Colorado River, just show you the continued construction and infrastructure that's being added here, some industries, and also a lot of apartments that are being built in just on the south side of the Colorado River. As I pan back to the north, more of the ecological paradise and uplift on the left-hand side of the screen, just to the south of River Road, and of course the development of the day, which is here, the new test track. The outline, the large road, and another kind of access road here at the bottom of the screen is really starting to take shape. A lot of geotextile membranes being placed in. Eventually that'll be concreted or asphalted. And we see this large oval taking shape with more of that geotextile membrane. Of course, the very large oval, that's the perimeter road. And in and amongst the middle of this smaller oval, we can see what looks to be kind of wavy roads that may be part of the design of the test track. They end with the smaller kind of horseshoe roadway and allows them to be able to change direction and go back the opposite way. I'm going to bring the drone up to a much higher altitude just so you can get an overall view of what this test track looks like and how it is coming together, and then back to the main factory and way at the top of the screen, that north side where we were beginning the video. I expect kind of at the bottom of the screen that we'll see some facilities and support structures added in. This infield is going to be a lot of that test track, And I don't know, but where this pond is and some of the other materials, I still think it would be great if they had an off-road track of some sort for the Cybertruck. I've been thinking about that for about 5 years now, and I don't know. I hope that they actually do something for the Cybertruck in addition to vehicles driving around on this track. But this is a nice overview of how it is coming together. And with some of the vehicles on the track, gives you an idea of the scale and how large this actually is. As we get down a little bit lower, we can see one more pond has been retained, at least a small part of it, more of the geotextile membranes being laid out on this interior oval. And a good look back to the east about how the access points to the track is starting to come together. Now, they kept all the risers for lighting here, so I'm thinking that this is probably a parking lot that will be in support of the track. I'm going to keep the drone at this altitude. We'll fly over the power lines and just get an update here of the materials, some of the workshops, the supercharger workshop at the bottom of the screen, and the large number of transformers coming into view. Now, there is a roadway that's off to the left of the screen out of view, but we're kind of thinking that that is now overcome by events with the test track, but we'll see if that develops. At the outbound lot, we can tell that it is very busy today. Quite a large number of Model Ys. There are some Cybertrucks. I've had some viewers ask if they're making Cybertrucks. The answer is yes, but it's kind of sparse for the moment. However, I think once we get into April and the shutdown for the first week or so of April, we're going to start seeing a lot more of the Cybertrucks as production is ready to gear back up. As we get closer to the superchargers, just a nice kind of a quick glance at the activity levels here today. I did notice the Cybercab was arriving on the left. I'll show you here in the middle of the screen. Kind of drives through this old track next to the end of line. And I'm going to pan away and just show you where it may eventually end up, which is where another large group of Cybercabs are being collected ready for transport off-site. Now, I'll zoom in so you get a good view of what these look like. These appear to still be the engineering or testing versions. Many of these all have the steering wheels, which is a temporary addition to the pre-production models of the Cybercabs, and these are being used around the country for testing and checking out new locations. Hopefully we'll see the robotaxi fleet itself expanding too. So kind of a good overview of what these operations look like here in the outbound lot with not only the Model Ys and Cybertrucks, but now with the Cybercabs. So that'll bring us to the end of the video today. I'll bring us up to a higher altitude. We'll look across much of the site that we visited today. And at the far left-hand side of the screen is that north area, that construction site that we began with. As always, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. I hope you have a great rest of the week. Take care.